Greetings, Tony Mobley here. Listen, I'm back with another great conversation. Tonight, I am blessed and fortunate to have a good friend. So tonight, my special guest is Mr. Lamell McMorris. And so before I tell you about him, let's just say I am happy to share with you why we're here. We are here because life has provided me some new opportunities to share with the community of the world. And so I just wanted to have real conversations with real people. So that's what we try to do. Tonight, I'm talking to my friend, fellow Morehouse graduate, Lamell McMorris, CEO of Phase 2 Consultants. And we hope to help others with this conversation. But I need your help. Yes, this is a call out. So I need you to go to conversationswithtonymobley.com and I need you to register on the website. Why do I need you to register on the website? Because I have a chat. And in that chat, you have the opportunity to put in your questions, ask your questions, and not only that, you can vote those questions up and down. So if you like this conversation that we're going to have tonight, and then you like the past conversations that we had, I ask you to like and subscribe, and then set that bell to all of the notifications that will remind you of the upcoming conversations. So with that, we're going to start, and I'm just going to let Lamell to say hello to you guys before we get into the questions.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here with you, brother. I don't think your audience knows just how long we have known each other. It has been, we were not at Morehouse together, but you clearly watched my entire matriculation through Morehouse in 1991 through 1995. And so I've known you since 1991. So it is quite an honor and quite humbling, frankly, to be with you in this space. And I'm very proud to see where God has taken you and your vision and this platform. And so glad to be here. Let's get to it, however, in whatever way you like.
All right, man, we're going to get into it. So the first question is, who is Lamell McMorris?
Fundamentally, I am still, even at 48 years old, still very much a kid from the South Side of Chicago. Um, Life takes us through all kinds of twists and turns, good and bad, up and down. Uh, and the line is never straight. But I'm happy that the line of my life still points to 66 in Cottage Grove in West Woodlawn in Chicago. And uh, that line is guided by my faith, having grown up in church, in Berean Baptist Church at 51st and State, and then supplemented and supported immensely by my mom and my family. And I am, very much still that kid who has always been at the table with adults trying to make decisions around policy issues, who's always trying to advocate for things. The student government guy, always had a suit on and a briefcase. My buddies would tease me. They'd be headed to the mall. They say, "Oh, we know you've got a meeting." I'm still all of the young man that you met, very raw, walking in to Morehouse College and at Zion Hill Baptist Church, where we worship and share together, still trying to learn and be open to new opportunities and new phases of life. I don't let school and career, all of that has been wonderful, and it clearly has shaped me. But I am more shaped and moved and more of a product of a bunch of men and women's shoulders that I stand on, and the community on the south side of Chicago, of which I'm from.
Yeah, so you already went into the second question. The second question is, let's talk about your mentors, past and present.
Oh yeah. Um, so you know, my mom, if I hope she's watching. She's supposed to be watching, and she's probably never heard me say this, but she is the first mentor, right? Because that's the example of work, of sacrifice, of faith. And so I'm shaped first and foremost by her motto and her example. Then there are so many other women and men in my family, especially all of my aunts and uncles in particular. This library that you see behind me, at the top of it is a picture of my aunt Winifred Jackson, who was ferocious and dogged about me reading. And most of these books she was able to give to me to start and kick off my library. For yesterday, for all 48 years of my life, probably the man that's had the greatest influence, just acknowledged and celebrated his 60 plus decades on this earth. And that's my cousin Stanley Washington. If he just happens to be listening, wishing him a happy birthday. I was his shadow, and so very much moved by him. And then my pastor, Reverend William J. Vance, and a host and chorus of men and women at Berean Baptist Church on the South Side, who made sure that on, not only was there worship on Sunday, but tutoring for us for school on weekends. The first place I learned how to ski as a kid from the South Side, the inner city of Chicago, was through my church, Berean Baptist Church, in the shadow of the Robert Taylor homes. People would never think that we'd be going to Wisconsin to ski on the weekends. Those men and women in part. And then they're the folks that God puts into your life. I cannot let this moment go without lifting up, well, there's so many names, but the name of Reverend Tyrone Crider, the man who sent my application from his office the Morehouse man, who sent my application to Morehouse from his office when he was the executive director of Operation Push, then now Rainbow Push, the organization led and founded by Reverend Jesse Jackson. Tyrone Crider literally sent me to Morehouse. He was the example of the Morehouse man that I got to know first, along with Dr. Lerone Bennett, the former editor of Ebony. And then there are so many: Vernon Jarrett, ABC 7 columnists, renowned journalists in Chicago, who put me on television as a grammar school student all the way through high school to co-host his television show, to Reverend Jackson and Reverend Willie Barrow and the folks at Rainbow Push, who very much shaped my advocacy and social justice work at its start. There are countless, to Dr. Loretta Thompson, who every kid who grew up in the Black church had that one person that made you go up on that stage, even if you did not want to, and recite Easter and Bible verses.
I know what you're talking about,
Be
man.
on your case. But I lift all this up because I can't disconnect, however and in whatever shape anyone sees me today, from those men and women, but especially from those experiences. My ability to be able to get on the line with you tonight with any level of confidence and to speak, if I do, clearly, is because of Loretta Thompson and Berean Baptist Church and speaking and getting on stage. And so I, even in this 48th year of my life, am very grateful, very thankful. I didn't name half of the folks: Jim Shirley, my uncle Lou Myers, famed attorney and civil rights advocate in Chicago. So many teachers in the Chicago public school system, particularly at McCosh before it was Emmett Till, at Beasley Academic Center, and most importantly, and especially at Whitney Young High School, where everything started to take shape prior to my going on to Morehouse College. And then look, there's our pastor, Aaron L. Parker at Zion Hill Baptist Church. It's Martin Luther King III, folks in Atlanta, Mike Ross, Jerry Gray, Kent Matlock. These brothers who, by the way, I still speak to on a daily basis today, shaped by my best friend from college, Delman Coast, my best friend who works with me at Greenlining and the housing efforts in Chicago from high school, Sean Harden, who's going to be, by the way, for anyone in Chicago listening, he's going to be featured live on WGN tonight on WGN Chicago at 9 p.m. Central. Sean Harden leading Greenlining's efforts in West Woodlawn in my neighborhood. So I'm shaped and molded by so many people. I could go on, and I know that's probably the bad thing to do, because I know I'm leaving off so many. My cousin Geneva Oatman and my little cousins who give me motivation and inspiration. This is who I am, and these are the people that I admire and look up to. And whether they know it or not, they are truly, the wind beneath my sails, and the reason why I've been able to do half of what I've been able to try and accomplish over these last 48 years.
Man, it's cool. This is cool. So what you've just said is what we always talk about the village.
Yes.
And so your village just happens to be a very large one.
It's large, and I didn't even probably name the half, right? Yeah,
yeah, man. So this is really cool. So I appreciate you, and I know those that you didn't name know that you love them in your heart, and so
no doubt about it.
They'll be all right. They'll be all right.
No doubt about it.
So I have a couple of more questions.
Yes.
So we're going to go back to what lessons have you learned from your parents that you're using today?
Yes. My mom was, if I'm really honest, boy, if she's listening, I'm gonna get in trouble for this one. But my mom was not like tough. As a matter of fact, she was probably quite liberal, as I, reflect in this moment, and gave a lot of wiggle room for you to fall and learn some stuff on your own, and in part because she was working. I was a latchkey kid, and so I had no choice but. And so this independence, which she still has very much at her age, I won't say it because I'll definitely get in trouble. But let's say she's
no, don't say it, man. Don't say it.
He's a seasoned independent who acts more like a 24-year-old. But that energy, that zest for life, that dogged work ethic, and probably being open-minded, it starts and all begins and comes full circle with her. She today is a tough, vivacious woman, and if I could have half her energy, half her kind spirit, then those are the major takeaways that I've gleaned from her.
We're going to shift gears a little bit. So
Sure.
Where do you see public education?
In a very precarious situation. And unfortunately, much of what we have observed through history, perpetuated around inequality, lack of resources, still unfortunately continues today. And so when I think about my public education, I probably didn't realize that the facilities were not adequate and up to par to other neighborhoods. I probably had no idea that we didn't have the technological things that we needed for school. Probably had no clue that our facilities were not as put together as other neighborhoods. The difference when I think about my public education were my teachers who went above and beyond, who cared in spite of, who poured into you, who inspired you and motivated you. And so I'm looking for that resurgence and continue focus on the teachers, the educators, and they're the ones in the most troubled environments doing nowhere near what their salary and compensation commands, but doing the tough work. Now it's upon individuals like us to support them and give them the resources, because I lived through precarious times, but times are very different, and the challenges and the headwinds are certainly different that they confront. So I'm hopeful, but I recognize that public school education is in a very challenging state, and it's about supporting the educators and the teachers and giving them the resources that they need to do the God's work that they're doing.
Very cool. So we have a question from Chris Clark from Tempe, Arizona.
Tempe, Arizona. All right.
He says, what extracurricular activities did you participate in during your high school and college, if any, and what lessons did you learn from them that you're still drawing on?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Clark. Tempe, Arizona, man, brother. Mobile, you got folks from the West Side, everywhere. I love it tuning in. But I touched upon it earlier, actually, Mr. Clark, and that is, I was literally even in grammar school. I was the student representative on the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association Council. I was involved in student government in high school. I ran track in cross country, as a matter of fact, in high school. Also sang in the choir. God rest the remarkable soul of Flora Robinson, who recently passed in Chicago, who is the mother. And, you can always tell a tree by the fruit it bears. So I'm gonna brag on Ms. Robinson real quick, but also her two of her children, who just happen to be still good friends of mine. One big time Hollywood actor, comedian. Everyone probably knows him from the Pizza Hut commercials, Craig Robinson, and then his little brother, Chris Robinson, who's a phenomenal musician and entertainer. And so, Craig and I were in the choir together. So choir was very much a part of my life, and being involved in church, usher board, etc. And then in college, my student government and government involvement was more outside of Morehouse. Actually, being an intern in Martin Luther King III's office at Fulton County, and being a student minister at Zion Hill. So the consistent theme, and getting to Mr. Clark's question, is in my life, which continues to this day, there's been this duality, right? One hand in church, one hand in policy, one hand in church, one hand in advocacy, which has shaped who I am. And so the lesson is, I'm always working. I'm one of the lessons is, if you want to be engaged in change, you've got to be in the room and at the table to do it. And those are lessons that carry out today. And then, I'm big on show me your friends and I'll show you your future. And so I think one of the things from my life is the individuals who have shaped and molded me as friends and mentors are still around me to this day. And you can tell a lot by and thank you for putting up that photo of Martin Luther King III and Reverend Sharpton, both two individuals that have literally watched me grow up, and who I talk to on a consistent basis, if not as on a weekly and sometimes daily basis. But I always tell young people, especially, look, if I just kind of rolled up on you in school and just caught who you were having lunch with, who you were walking home with, that'll tell me a lot about you. And the same for us as adults. I tell adults, give me your phone. I can tell a lot about you by the last 5 to 10 people that you either called or text. We are shaped, right? So one of the takeaways from my life as a child to now is that we are shaped and molded by the individuals that and the company that we keep. And, you know, show me your friends and I'll show you your future. I hope that my childhood and the work and the individuals that I spent so much time around is evidence that those individuals are not only still there, but those are the people that continue to shape and mold me to this day.
Very cool. So I'm gonna do a little break from the questions. So
Okay.
what I want to do is I got a team helping me, Lamell. So I'm asking the team to go ahead and gear up to share the Greenlining initiative that you've been doing. And first, before that even comes, I want to say this.
Mm-hmm.
We who are followers of God, and we, you know, there's a tenet that we have about faith. Faith without works,
yes,
is dead.
Yes, sir.
And so what I want all of you who are listening and paying attention to this brother is doing the work that faith requires. And I think it's important that we who are a part of and I'm just going to lift this. I can talk about Christianity because I'm a Christian, but other faiths can draw on this too.
Yes, sir.
From the standpoint of whatever your religion, your philosophy, your way of doing things, be about the business that the work of what you're doing shows up.
Yeah.
And so this is what this brother is doing. And so we're gonna shift to a short video on the Greenlining Realty USA, and that should be coming up right now.
Woodlawn, a once vibrant community with a vast cultural and historic past.
Woodlawn,
once the cornerstone of a thriving middle-class Black community with entertainment and restaurant districts. The neighborhood of Woodlawn on Chicago's South Side was a great place to raise a family. It was livable, walkable, and playable. Due to urban decline resulting from discriminatory lending and housing policies, Woodlawn became troubled.
Hi, I'm Martin Luther King III. Over 50 years ago, my father came to Chicago to address the issue of housing.
Every time Negroes went in, the real estate agent said, "Oh, I'm sorry, we don't have anything listed." Now you can find something somewhere else, and it was always back in the ghetto.
Now to see a student of the King movement, who was once executive director of King's organization, come back to where he was born and grew up and helped develop Woodlawn, is a day of celebration.
And then soon after that, we sent some of our fine white staff members into those same real estate offices, and the minute the white persons got in, they opened the book. "Oh yes, well, we have several things. Now, what exactly do you want?"
And I want to compliment Lamell and the team for continuing in the tradition, creating a scenario where the community can truly realize its dream.
Hello, neighbors. You know, growing up, I lived on Evans Avenue. First in a 3-story frame walk-up in the 6700 block near 68th Street, and then at 6545 South Evans. So I am more than just happy. I am filled with joy each and every time I even think about what has begun to and will happen on my street, Evans Avenue. Why? Because each home rehabilitated, each home that will be constructed represents renewed hope.
For decades, as Woodlawn's residents moved out of the neighborhood, many homes fell into disrepair and vacant lots went underdeveloped. Years of disinvestment took a toll on the community, and incidents of violence and crime increased. As a son of the neighborhood, Lamell McMorris couldn't sit idly by and watch the decline of Woodlawn, the neighborhood he grew up in. As an entrepreneur with decades of experience in civil rights, he recruited his childhood friend, Sean Harden, and developed the plan to create growth through investing in the place he once called home. And Greenlining Realty USA was formed.
Well, thank you for hearing the message. I think
Yes, sir.
your idea of building where you live, the honeybee, it doesn't have a brain. It feeds the flowers raw. It doesn't just get nectar and I'm gone. It does pollen pick the nectar and then it gets empty, it comes back, then the flower keeps living. So you honor the law of regeneration when you feed the flower that you are. God bless you, Lamell, and your mother, my sister, and I employee.
Today, as you drive the streets of Woodlawn, you will see the Chicago Department of Transportation improving infrastructure, the Transit Authority upgrading the 63rd train station, and the opening of new businesses along the reviving commercial district on 63rd and Cottage Grove Avenue. Once considered a food desert, Woodlawn recently celebrated the opening of a new grocery store. Each serves as a sign of new investment. Tackling the discriminatory history of redlining and building high-quality homes is a challenge. But the Greenlining team has always believed in Woodlawn's value and knew it could build homes that will keep Woodlawn thriving for decades to come. Let us introduce you to the development that does just that. Woodlawn Point. We're thrilled to be breaking ground here today. We're developing 9 homes that celebrate the history of Woodlawn and that are designed to fit within the historic architecture of the neighborhood.
Hello, I'm Dory McWhorter, the CEO of YWCA Metropolitan Chicago, and I am thrilled to be able to celebrate the groundbreaking of Woodlawn Point. I am so grateful for Greenlining Realty USA and its founder, Lamell McMorris, for recognizing the value of the West Woodlawn community and making sure that its residents had something to be proud of.
I'm Ed Gorman, Managing Director of NCRC's Growth Project. Proud to be a partner with Lamell McMorris and Greenlining as we launch Woodlawn Point. I know this is the culmination of many years of hard work that Lamell and Sean have been doing in Woodlawn Point. We're proud to be your partner and look forward to many more great projects together. Congratulations, the best is yet to come.
Everything about Woodlawn Point is about supporting what makes Woodlawn great. Restoring vibrancy into the neighborhood for years to come is our goal.
I want to congratulate Lamell McMorris with this groundbreaking today to show that we can go back and be an asset to the very foundation and launching paths of our lives.
These homes serve as a pipeline towards revitalizing Woodlawn's long-term future. Our team will be hard at work making Woodlawn Point a reality for the next few months.
I'm Mark Morial, and I'm President and CEO of the National Urban League. And I'm proud to celebrate with Lamell McMorris the groundbreaking for Woodlawn Point. Lamell, a member of the National Urban League Board of Trustees, is a dynamic, visionary, can-do leader. Woodlawn Point represents his vision to greenline neighborhoods that have been forgotten and locked out and left out. Congratulations, Lamell. Congratulations, Greenlining. And may this continue to be part of the transformation of the Woodlawn neighborhood in Chicago. My best wishes. God bless.
Hi, this is Pete Buttigieg bringing greetings from South Bend, Indiana. And I'm here with a word of congratulations to everyone who has played a role in making this groundbreaking at Woodlawn Point possible. Greenlining is doing such important work to help reverse the historically damaging and continuing effects of redlining and to build greater racial and economic equality. As we often discussed on the campaign trail, and as I will continue to speak out on in the future, tackling issues of systemic racism and correcting the inequities that have existed in this country for far too long is a defining issue for the American project in this century. Replacing racist policies with neutral ones is not enough. It's going to take resources, it's going to take action, it's going to take intention, and all of that is on display here. So I admire the work that you are doing, and I look forward to continuing to see how this could serve as a model for Chicago and for cities across the country.
The critical work to inject capital and energy into this historic community of color starts today. Developing quality homes for historic communities of color is the right thing to do, and that's what Greenlining Realty USA is all about.
Hi, I'm Lamell McMorris, founding principal of Greenlining Realty USA, and this is the neighborhood where I grew up, Woodlawn in Chicago, Illinois. We'd like to welcome you to this virtual celebration, and thank you very much for joining us today as we embark upon a new day, a new transformation, a new way, a new path forward called Woodlawn Point.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. Lamell, can you speak to some of the things that we saw in that video that are already completed?
You know, so you saw on the block at 65th and Evans, which sits parallel to my childhood home, the homes that you saw. It's kind of amazing to see it, the dirt and the digging, and now you see fully executed 5-bedroom homes where once vacant lots stood, that not only are properties that help close the wealth gap from an ownership standpoint, but we even have a unit at the bottom level that is income generating to help offset the mortgage for those who are first time and beginning in newer home bodies. So, it's one thing to, have a vision, is another thing to see it come to fruition. It was actually Reverend Jeremiah Wright of Chicago that said, everybody sees the glory, they just don't know the story. It's pretty wild to see the end result. But Sean Harden, especially, but especially Sean Harden, knows the story part. Everyone can see the evidence, and that there is my what I see on the screen is my childhood home, which is where we actually started. We didn't do anything in the community until we first started in the house and trying to evidence what we were trying to, the product and the inventory that we were trying to bring to the community. And I felt it was important to start with my own house, right? And so that was a total gut rehab. It looks totally different than when I was a kid. But not only did we do that rehab led by Sean as well, but we let the community walk through it, and we let them see what we were attempting to do, and that is still our childhood home. We have residents there. It looks a little, we just painted the outside, looks a little different now. Sean modernized it so that it looks almost like the newer houses now that we just completed. But yeah, you saw on that video and in those photos a work in progress, and now that work has come full circle.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So I know folk are watching and they're reaching out to you, man. Go ahead and silence those bells, because they're gonna keep coming in. We're gonna keep talking about all these things that you're doing, man.
I'm not as tech savvy as you, so I don't know what I need to do to make sure you don't hear the text messages coming through on my screen here. But hopefully it won't interfere and interrupt too much.
Okay, so now I'm gonna shift gears a little bit, so we can go back to the questions. And so this is just a Tony Mobley question, because I'm just curious. What is it like to have office space on Pennsylvania Avenue in DC?
Yeah, it's quite Humbling. It is, I'll compare it to, and by the way, my office is at 1455 Pennsylvania Avenue, and the White House is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. But the feeling is the same one that I get with having the privilege to play a game that I love and a sport that I love, and that's golf, right? I can't set foot on a golf course or go to a golf tournament or participate in in that sport without thinking about Charlie Sifford and Lee Elder, Black men who pioneered and sacrificed and were called names and spit on in order to play a game that we love. And when I walk into my office in the Willard, and it's on Pennsylvania Avenue, and it sits across the street from the White House and down the street from the Capitol, I can't go there and traverse in that area without thinking about the slaves who helped build those buildings, and the marches that helped establish and provide a way for me to be there. And so, yeah, it appears good, and it's close proximity to the seats of power, but it's more important for me to understand the shoulders of which, and then thus recognize the responsibility that I have because I'm able to have an office at the Willard at 1455 Pennsylvania Avenue. So it'd be easy to kick up my heels and lay back and beat my chest about how proud I should be and how great I am, but actually it actually reinforces the work that I must do and the calling that I feel I have on my life.
So I can't help but ask you about first son of Chicago who graced the White House, President Barack Obama.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to share anything about him that you feel comfortable with, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I know the people watching would too.
Yeah, that's again another example, especially even invoking the name of Jeremiah Wright and thinking about him and what I said earlier about knowing, seeing the glory, and also paying tribute to the story. In my case, as it relates to Barack Obama, I had the privilege, again, it's this line that we draw. I had the privilege and the honor as a high school student of working with him when he was just a young guy who was coming to Chicago as a community organizer, trying to get people to vote. And because I was a high school student who was an agitator, and I was leading all these high school students, and part of his mandate around voter registration and education was to get eligible high school students to vote as well. They said, hey, it's this crazy kid over at Whitney Young who has all these high school students organized. If you're trying to get high school students, you may want to get them involved. And so my introduction to him was not, the ascendancy to the United States Senate or even the Illinois State Senate or United States Senate or ultimately the White House. My introduction to Barack Hussein Obama was in the community and in the streets and doing the work on the South Side of Chicago. And so my vision and perception of him is shaped by that. And so the message is, not just hope and change, but the message for us is to walk that example. I want young people to not just be inspired by the evidence of his work, but I want them to be actually inspired by the work and the work that's still needed in our community. And that's the lens that I look at Barack Obama through his community service.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. So why did you start your business in DC?
Wow. You very much were there when and how this happened. Let me now, since you're taking me back, let me take you back to where you fit into this narrative. You watched me go in college, and then you watched me go to Princeton Theological Seminary from college, and then you watched me come back after Princeton Seminary, and even after going back home to Chicago, to Atlanta, to work with Martin Luther King III when he was the president and CEO of the organization that his father started, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. You also witnessed right there as a witness at 27 years old, he appointed me the National Executive Director and Chief Operating Officer of that time, that which was a 45-year-old organization that his dad led. 27-year-old whippersnapper, still a member of Zion Hill Baptist Church. Matter of fact, remember, we were doing my ordination process at the church, even during this time. You recall that maybe less than 6 months in, me and my great grand ideas sitting on Auburn Avenue in Atlanta in the offices where Martin Luther King Jr. Once set, trying to envision a new path forward for this historic civil rights organization. You witness what we'll call the clash of the titans, and I'll let your listeners go back and really dig and do their own research and come to their own conclusions. But what propelled and precipitated the birth of what was then the name of my first firm in Washington, D.C. was Perennial, was my early and untimely departure, where I thought I was going to be the next or a remnant of Dr. King or Jesse Jackson, and very much in that lineage. I thought I was going to be one of the next civil rights and social justice leaders. But, you know, our vision is not always God's vision. And what may look like a door being closed is actually a whole door being open. And so my untimely departure, because of a breach with some of our civil rights heroes and heroines, actually was the impetus to me being consistent with the advocacy work, but also being consistent to being an entrepreneur and combining both things that I've been called, that duality between church and policy. And so that is how Perennial came to be. I concluded after being in the capital of Georgia, in Atlanta, and being in that environment and working politically, having grown up in Chicago and watching, and then traveling with Reverend Jesse Jackson and Martin Luther King III, coming around all these people who called themselves lobbyists. And I concluded that, you know, basically they were people that had good relationships and shared good information. And I thought that I had at that time a phenomenal amount of exposure, some wonderful experiences. And if I could combine that which I've been called to do with an entrepreneurial endeavor, the other message here, and that is that we can do good and still make money. I decided that I just gotten fired in Atlanta, so I couldn't start a firm there. I love my home state of Illinois, but the capital of Illinois is not Chicago or Springfield, and I could not really see myself being in Springfield, Illinois. So I said, if I'm gonna launch a firm, I'm gonna do it at the highest level of where it goes down. And so I was crazy enough to think that I could go to DC in 2002 and start a firm from the ground up called Perennial, trying to connect myself with the long-standing legacy of this city. And thank God, 19 years later, we're still standing.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that. Let's talk about how COVID-19 impacted you professionally as well as community.
Yeah, so truth be told, about 8 years ago, and this is, you know, I hope your listeners really hear me as I share this in the spirit in which I share this, because sometimes as entrepreneurs and as business owners, we miss something in our journey, and it's balance. And I found myself 8 years ago not really having much balance. I was so immersed and, you know, so head down at that time, not only did I have a lobbying firm and government relations consulting firm in the city, but I also had a sports agency. And so there's a lot going on. And I felt like if I didn't inject some level of balance in my life and be very deliberate about it, knowing the rhythm of DC, knowing my business, then I perhaps would have some health outcomes that would not be well. So I decided that I would personally move my residence to a state where it's a little bit more sunnier. And if golf is my part of my therapy, I could do it year round. And so 8 years ago, and this is a long way of answering your question, 8 years ago, I moved my residence to Florida. But my businesses are, based in DC and Chicago. And so by doing that, though, and it just shows you about order steps. By doing that, though, I started, for the most part, a virtual relationship with my corporate clients and folks that I do business with. So when COVID started, there was little disruption in my case, besides this obvious scares and fears of not knowing what tomorrow was going to bring that all of us had. But the execution and ability to work on behalf of those that I've been called to advocate for did not wane. And so that's personally, we have survived, we have thrived. Business has actually grown, and I think not just COVID-19, but in the wake of social injustice, unrest, and a highly combustible political environment, it appears that the services that we offer became even more interesting to folks in corporate America. So that has allowed us to continue to thrive.
Can you do a quick rundown? Can you do a quick rundown of all the services that you provide?
Oh, wow. I mean, mainly centered around third-party consulting and engagement, helping corporations, Fortune 500 corporations, develop strategies to execute their not just policy, but also their social impact strategies and how they engage with historic leaders and organizations in our community. Some diversity, equity, and inclusion consulting. And then at this point, to be very honest with you, brother, there's the stuff that appears on the website and on the platform. But in my case, because my relationships, business relationships especially, have been so long standing, you get called to be engaged and to give advice and counsel on a myriad of issues. And really, I'm thankful that hopefully I've been a bridge over some troubled water, and I've added value to my clients in ways that I did never imagine. But so that is in my case. Personally, we've continued, thank God, to be able to be and grow our business in this COVID and precarious environment. But then, they're the realities of our community, right? And so launching Greenlining prior to, and then going through trying to build new infrastructure and bring new housing and sell homes in the middle of a global pandemic and racial and social unrest on the south side of Chicago, in what has been clearly a red line, disenfranchised community of which I grew up, also presented its own different realities, right? And then my service on historic and civil rights organizations, where you see the inequities exacerbated and where we're wrestling through COVID to partner with corporations to come up with programs to address. And so it has been an all-encompassing last couple of years, both as a strategist and executor of work, as a servant of organizations dedicated to redressing, and then to your earlier point, walking the walk and talking the talk, actually back in my neighborhood, engaged in the work, trying to get sisters and brothers
Yes, sir.
jobs. So it's been all of that happening, which gives me a remarkable perspective. And then I should probably mention this because it's important, because it's a part of the story and a part of the narrative, but it's also a part of our needing to continue to build and develop ourselves. In the midst of COVID, I went back to school. So I am now a doctoral student focused in an academic environment on the very things that I'm trying to redress in my neighborhood. So I figured if I can walk the walk, talk the talk, then why not be a part of the lineage and of the academic study and try to help build upon that and catapult our work even further. And so maybe someone will listen to something that I teach or write, and we can add value in a whole new dimension. And that whole journey would take us another hour, being a student again, and how humbling that is to be in the classroom with so many people who are focused on space debris and how they turn Tulsa and their communities around and how they address international conflicts. And then, we lay on the table the historic issues of redlining and how communities of color, particularly African-American communities, were deliberately and legally segregated. And to have these robust conversations around the world with people that don't look like you and I. And so I'm thankful that God has provided me a platform and an opportunity to not just examine problems and issues, but to actually make an attempt to try to be a part of the solutions in a very full circle manner, from childhood to 48 years later, as I sit with you tonight. So that's the passion, and that's what keeps me going, and that's what drives me. This opportunity, this remarkable moment and opportunity that I recognize is not meant by me and not given to me, but I do have
you preaching now. You preaching now, but I gotta get a couple of more questions in.
I'm sorry. So I'll stop.
I gotta no man. You know it's all right with me, right? You know it's all right with me, but we gotta get a couple of more questions because I don't know when I'm gonna be able to get you back, man. So I gotta get it while the iron's hot. So I got a couple of questions.
Extended time. Let's go. Let's keep going.
And so I have Lou Perez, who is I'm going to just go ahead and say this. He is a person who has been following Conversation with Tony Mobley since I started it, and been a very much supporter. So I wanted to get his question in. He says, can you share how the work you have accomplished can be duplicated in other markets? And this we're in a speed round now, so we're going to try to get through quite a few more questions. Well, we only have about 10 minutes. Oh, they just told me we only have 5 minutes, man. So we got to push.
All right. So, Mr. Perez, I'll try to answer your question a couple of ways. One, do not hesitate to reach out to me at Greenlining Realty USA. I'm on Instagram. It's Lamell MC, Greenlining Realty USA. My email, easy to contact, LinkedIn. So that's the first step I'd love to share with you directly, because we're really, to be very candid, we're just getting to the point where, I deliberately, came up with the name Greenlining Realty USA because I always had the vision that we were going to be able to duplicate. And so we're now, again, not recreating a wheel, but attempting to build on phenomenal work that's going on in distressed communities around the country, and bringing what we've learned and the expertise that we've gained having gone through this in one of the most challenging communities in the country. And so I cannot yet tell you the markets where we're headed, but I assure you, be on the lookout, and you'll be able to see the models of how we've been able and reach out, because we have no problem sharing as well how our lessons learned.
Yeah, my next question was going to be about Morehouse College, and I wanted to lift up Dr. Aaron Parker and Dean Lawrence Carter, but
absolutely,
we're going to have to talk about them another time. So we're going to go back to Dr. Chris Clark from Tempe, Arizona, I love the idea of flipping the practice of redlining to greenlining.
Mm.
How about redirecting some of the billions sent to wargaming to new investment in peace gaming?
Yeah, I mean that's you know, uh, if we look at the lineage and the tree that I hope and believe that I come from, and that's the Kingian, Jesse Jackson lineage of constantly questioning and wrestling with militarism and weapons and war overseas, while domestically our communities uh, are devastated and the poor are underserved. I wish, Dr. Clark, that I had a solution, and I really wish I could tell you that we continue to wrestle with some of the same issues that Dr. King wrestled with at the height of the civil rights movement, whether it's a guaranteed job or resources coming to our community and access to capital, to voting rights. The work continues, and so folks like you and myself and brother Tony Mobley have to continue to put the message forward and continue to press on legislatively, policy, and keep the work going.
Thank you so much for that. Can you talk about future projects?
Yes. So I cannot say again yet, but I'll invite you and your listeners and audience
Stay tuned.
to stay tuned because again, we're constantly evolving and we're constantly pivoting to make change and to do good and to serve, and service comes in many different ways. And so there's an exciting change in my life from a career standpoint that is coming to fruition over the next couple of weeks, and it will be different than how people have seen me serve previously, particularly in my capacity from a government relations standpoint in Washington, D.C. So definitely, so that'll get some folks coming back, and maybe that'll get me back, because then I can talk about the new work from a new platform, and which I think will help us redress some of the same issues that I've been concerned about throughout my life.
Consider it booked. Consider it booked. It's a done deal. And so I got so many questions left, but we're running out of time. So I think this is an important question. This is the question I normally ask everyone.
Mm-hmm.
You're speaking to the world. What do you want them to know? But while you're thinking about that, this is a question that I think that people who are watching and listening might want to scratch their head about. So they want to know, how are you able to stay so grounded? Because you interact with everybody. You dealing with people that are at the top, you're dealing with people at the bottom, and you're able to, and I know that I know this about you because this is the way you've always been, but speak to them about how you're able to stay how you are grounded.
Well, I'll try to make 2 points quickly. At our alma mater that you just lifted up, which is worthy, there is no important pivot in my life that a man of Morehouse College has not played a role. And so that's important because that first week, that almost first day at Morehouse College, we're taught, and you know this, that there's a crown above our head, and we're constantly trying to grow tall enough to wear it. And so when you recognize that your work never stops, your service never stops, you are yes, may be doing well, yes, may be successful in some people's eyes, but for the grace of God, and then still you have more work to do. That's what keeps me grounded. And then it's what we've taught, and you mentioned earlier a very important word, You know, we've been taught as kids, especially those growing up in the church, and it is a true Bible verse. And this is what I really want to leave your audience. And we were taught that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. But then, Brother Mobley, when you realize that you are the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, for your ancestors who never would have dreamed that Tony Mobley would have a platform on and a way to speak to the world like this, who never would have imagined that having built the White House, the Capitol, that someone like me would actually have an office on Pennsylvania Avenue, that we would be at the highest forms of arts and entertainment and business, and yet still have work to do. If you recognize and acknowledge that not only must we embody faith, but we are living, walking evidence of faith, and that's what keeps me grounded. I recognize fully that I am the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen, for folks who never could imagine that we be able to do what we're doing, to have the opportunities. And that means that I have a greater burden to give back, to serve, to keep on working, to keep on fighting, to keep on advocating. And the best example, and you know, although you and I are preachers, the best sermon we can ever give is if we never open up our mouth. We let our work and our testament to it speak for itself.
Amen, brother. Thank you so much for that. The last question is, what's next for you? And you've already sort of spoken to that.
Stay tuned. Come back to Conversations with Tony Mobley, and I will tell it all.
All right. So I want to, Lamell, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And you know, we gotta give our thanks. And so I want to say again, thank you so much for doing this, taking time out of your schedule, out of your busy schedule, because I know how busy you are.
Thanks for having
me. So I really appreciate it. And I think that the audience, those who follow Conversation with Tony Mobley, appreciate it as well. So we want to give special thanks to Kimberly Mobley, the Global Family and Friends, Alex Lindsay and the Office Hours members, DVE Store, Liminal Entertainment Technologies, Byte Hive, VDO360.com. And I just want to tell you, Lamell, why I lift up VDO360. VDO360 is a webcam company that made the decision at the beginning of the pandemic that they would give teachers who had to do virtual instruction cameras when there were no cameras available.
Wow. Wow.
And I think it's important to lift them up. Although when I started Conversations, I was using one of the cameras. I'm not using their cameras now, but I still think it's worthy of continuing to lift them up, because it may be that the teachers may have to go back to them again to get some help with some cameras, because we don't know what's coming.
Absolutely.
Approvalone.com, Mr. Ken Jordan, Jonas Dattel, Aaron Huselich, Chirag Cheetah, David Brady, Marcus Lee Folk, Richard Lavery, Chris Fenwick, Manolo Lorenzo, and Jeffrey Powers. And I'm probably leaving off somebody. Please forgive me. And my producer, Talak Lopez Waterman, the Conversation with Tony Mobley producer. Again, thank you, Lamell.
Thank you
for this valuable conversation.
Thank you,
my good brother.
Thank you, brother.
And so next week, we're going to have a conversation, and this panel is going to be about young adults dealing with mental health. And I'm going to have therapist Carla Hawkins with me and educator Jessica Barkle. And that's what we're going to have on next week. And coming soon, more education, more mental health, filmmakers, musicians, other creators. And we hope to continue having these great conversations with interesting people. Thank you so much and good night. Take care, everyone. Thank you again, Lamell. Can't thank you enough.
Thank you.